the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is my co-host, Landon McCool. You can check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, we have actual football things to talk about as the Cowboys practice. How does it feel?
It's crazy. You know, it's always this long drought of waiting and waiting and waiting, and then finally football Christmas shows up on your doorstep, and it's almost overwhelming. And that's the thing about it, guys, is that what I'm starting to remember now is that this becomes a sprint very quickly. Like becomes just nonstop really quickly. So I was having a conversation with somebody about it last night. This is a little bit odd because, you know, they do all this, right? And they have one practice and then they're taking a day off before the weekend. So it's a little bit of a right. No, they practice again Saturday and Sunday. Okay. Yeah. But still, like, you know, kind of a very start stoppish. But once it really gets going, I mean, it seems like a long time, but it's not. It's a mad dash all the way to the regular season. So I'm ready for it. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that first practice. There was a lot of great clips on Twitter. I know a lot of people were out there sharing some of those. NFL Network was there. They were broadcasting a lot of the practice. So in case you didn't see it, we're going to be here wrapping it up for you. Let's talk about Dak, Landon. He told us he'd be ready to go for the first practice. He was out there. And not only was he out there, he was moving around, throwing on the run. I thought he looked pretty good from the naked eye. What did you see?
I'm afraid he's never going to play football again, Marcus. No, he looked fine. All the clips we saw, he looked good. I mean, look, this is not, you know, the ultimate test of that ankle. I mean, clearly we need to see him with bodies around his feet. You know, negotiating a pocket. We need to see him.
Well, I'm fine if we don't ever have bodies around.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, eventually it's going to happen. So we need to know what it's going to look like. Sure. We need to see him, you know, take a keeper and run to the outside and get tackled by his legs and see him pop up. Like, those are things that we still need to see. But I didn't see any ill effects. You know, again, I'm watching from video just like everybody else. So I didn't see anything that like made me think that he had a hitch in his giddy up, as they say, back in Texas. But I you know, we saw him roll out. We saw some bootleg stuff. He looked to be moving pretty well. He seemed to be throwing the football great. So yeah, I mean, I think we've been mentioning that this is kind of a non-story that's going to dominate. But yeah, just to kind of get a little bit more confirmation there is obviously always encouraging.
I agree. I think he looked fantastic. There was a throw that he had to Michael Gallup down the sideline, rolling out to the right, just a dime. He's back. I'm actually, of all the things to worry about with the Cowboys, he's like one of the ones I'm not worried about. Like
that throw to Malik Jackson when he rolled the other way, when he was rolling left. Malik Turner, that's what it was. Yeah. It just dropped it in the bucket. Was gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we're not going to talk about Dak that much because we don't need to. I think he looked fine.
Everybody else will be. Trust us. There's plenty of people talking about Dak and how he did. So let's make sure we're covering the rest of the team as well.
We got a lot of other notes to get to, but best in show, the person that looked the best, you know, after not seeing them over the last 6 months, Tyron Smith. Like I
mean, that's funny because I was going to say that. I was like, are we just talking about shirt off?
Just to work out like the physique, right? Like the guy that was clearly working out all spring long and could not wait to take his shirt off in front of the media, Tyron Smith.
I mean, listen, if I had that kind of upper body as Tyron Smith, you could not get me to ever.
No, you could not pay me to wear a shirt. I agree.
I would, no shirt, no shoes. I would just flex my muscles. Say you really don't want this in your restaurant. Like, give me a break. It's unbelievable. This dude, he's 310 pounds. I've never seen a 310-pound individual look like that before.
I think Tyron Smith took some of the Cowboys should draft a left tackle or they should cut him maybe a little personally because he looks as
great.
shredded as ever. I mean, he looks fantastic. Anybody else you want to mention their physique? Because that's really the first day of camp. You get to see these guys who looks lean, who looks out of shape. Anybody you want to mention?
Zeke obviously needs mentioning, but I thought, and you pointed it out, and I had been noticing it prior to that too, just from the pictures. DeMarcus Lawrence,
he looks slim.
He looks like he's slimmed down quite a bit. Like he almost looks like him and Randy Gregory switch bodies, like like Freaky Friday style. So like it's interesting because he clearly, I mean, he must have put in an effort to really kind of slim down like that. It'll be interesting to see how that translates to his game on the field. Come
for the Cowboys analysis, and you get us talking about guys without their shirts on. Let's actually talk. Well, let's talk about somebody who performed well again, Landon. We keep saying drum beats, right? The guys that are just consistently day in, day out, having good practices, good camps. Nashon Wright, man, I don't know what else to say about him. He had 3 pass breakups yesterday. He had one incredible play where he kind of came off his guy and made a pass breakup. I'm going to read you the text that somebody sent me yesterday because I want to make sure I get it word for word. So it was basically hold on, I'm pulling it up right now. Okay. Nashon Wright is better than Kelvin Joseph, and it might not be close. Now, when you hear that, you think, is Kelvin Joseph a bust? No, not at all. The tone of this conversation was more to praise Nashon Wright. The other thing that I got texted by somebody who was at camp and would know, they said fearless. They said he has a lot of things to clean up. There's a lot of technique things he needs to work on, but you can tell right away that he belongs. So I would say so far, so good for Nashon Wright, correct?
Yeah, I mean, let's make a quick stop to Kelvin Joseph real quick because I think this makes a difference. Joseph looked good from everything.
Yes, he did.
He looked like he was in really good shape, better shape than he had come into practice. His footwork looked a lot better. They were impressed with what he did in practice yesterday. And the reason I bring that up is to, again, show you how impressive Nashon Wright has been in the sense that he has still been that much better. I mean, it's one of those things where he's going to be Mr. Drumbeat pretty soon. I mean, it just seems like you're hearing his name every opportunity that we get a chance to talk to Cowboys coaches, folks inside the building.
Anybody that's in the know.
Anybody that's there, at least once a practice, it seems like we're hearing Nashon Wright's name. That's a very strong drumbeat. And again, we're in training camp. It's only one practice. Yes, it's not over. Let's not exaggerate. But, I mean, the fact that it immediately carried over. Like, the first practice, he's coming out and having, maybe one of the best practices of any defender on the team yesterday. And let's real quickly get into that pass breakup. The reason that was so impressive, right, is that he was covering the flat really well. He saw the concept. He understood the concept. He saw the route coming in behind him. He broke off of his assignment, and then the second thing that was crazy was that Dak made a great throw, or whoever was made it, right? Like there's no way that Nashon Wright should have gotten it to, but the fact that he's so tall and so long and was able to get up and knock that pass away was just really rare. I mean, honestly, it was really, really impressive.
So I was writing down some of my thoughts yesterday on those clips. So that play that you're mentioning, and we can tweet it out from the Locked On Cowboys account so people know, but that's the reason why you draft long corners, right? Like that's the exact reason why. However, to me, that wasn't the most impressive play that he made. And I don't know if you've seen this one. There was a comeback route that I believe it was either Malik Turner or Aaron Parker was running, and he was able to throttle down and then make a pass breakup. Like that's the concern that we had about Nashon Wright. Is he too tall that he's not going to be able to make those type of plays? And so far, again, he made that play. We'll see what happens when we get into games against, more proven guys than Malik Turner and Aaron Parker. But the fact that he's already making those has me really, really excited. I remember calling you the night of the second round, or the second day of the draft, complaining about that pick. We might be I might be really, really wrong on that one. And I would be glad to be wrong on that one.
Yeah, there's a lot of people tweeting that same thing out. I think yesterday that was just like, I ordered my plate of crow. I am ready to consume it at a high rate if this happens with Nahshon Wright with glee, because obviously,
yes,
if Cowboys Nation was wrong about this guy, that's fantastic news.
It's great.
I mean, you know,
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's all been positive. I think the play that you talk about, it was incredibly impressive. And you know, look, Malik Turner was the guy running the route, absolutely. But you know, Nashon Wright, regardless of who was running that route,
made the play.
Still able to throttle down at that size, and showed you the kind of agility at that size, which makes him, you know, eligible to be the kind of guy that we're hoping he could be. So, yeah, I think that, like I said, everything has been positive from him so far. Let's just keep seeing it, hopefully.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar, the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors. It's just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste absolutely fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKEDON, and you'll get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, a couple of just personnel groupings yesterday. So with the starting defensive line, it was Terrell Basham, it was Neville Gallimore, it was Carlos Watkins over Brent Urban, and then it was Randy Gregory. So the only one that really shocked me was Carlos Watkins over Brent Urban. Is that surprising to you?
Yeah, I mean, we got to be careful about reading too much into these things early, you know, because they're, especially at the defensive line, where they're likely to feature a rotation anyways. So, no, it doesn't necessarily surprise me, because Carlos Watkins is a veteran, you know, and that's kind of the deference that they give to those guys, the older guys.
So is Brent Urban.
Fair enough, but I think that Gallimore, you know, is a guy that they're explicitly excited about, so they want to get him out there too. I think that you're going to see that other defensive tackle spot kind of rotate in as they are figuring out exactly what they want. And also, like we said, not just the fact that they're going to rotate, but there's going to be personnel groupings that are going to feature specific guys being on the field together. Okay. So let's not get too deep into, like I said, specifically defensive line combinations, because those will be mix and matched.
The rest of the defense was basically as you would expect. It was Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith as the starters. It was Travon Diggs as one of the outside corners, Kelvin Joseph. It was Donovan Wilson as the strong safety, DeMonte Casey as the free safety. The only other thing that was sort of interesting to me is when Lyle Collins came off the field, you know, I think they're just trying to keep Collins fresh and not overwork him. Yeah. It was Terrence Steele instead of Ty Nishke. We kind of hypothesized over the offseason that maybe that's going to be the case all season long, and that they're just going to leave Ty as the backup left tackle. Is that surprising to you at all?
You know, it's early, so it's not surprising that they're trying different combinations. You know, Nitschke's obviously got a lot of skins to the wall, and there's a lot of comfort there. But you know, maybe this is also the year that the wheels fall off. So who knows? I think I'm not surprised that they want to try to leverage the experience that Terrence Steele got last year. And see if he hasn't, you know, kind of transformed that into being a different player this season. I think that makes sense. You know, if it continues beyond this, and despite the fact that we may think that Nitschke is better, that would be concerning. But I think that they're going to give him a chance to try to win this job, or to win some kind of job, you know, based on whatever experience he gathered from last season.
I agree. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world, especially during training camp. Like, the reason why you sign a Ty Nishke is because he doesn't need a lot of snaps to play, like into the game, right? So give all of these extra reps to Terrence Steele, who probably needs them more than anybody else. So I'm fine with that. We do have to update you on an injury. Francis Bernard pulled a hamstring. It's really unfortunate for him, because when we were talking about our linebacker preview, there's just not a lot of spots for linebackers that aren't, you know, Keanu Neal and Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith and Micah Parsons. So for Bernard to pull his hamstring in the first day of practice it's a big setback, especially as he's competing with Luke Gifford. So
He should have pulled it. He should have pulled it a day before, and then he could have been put on PUP, and then he could have been just carried in through some mechanism with the roster. But
honestly, it's really the truth, right? Like it's better to pull your hamstring the day before practice than the first day because now your options are just limited, right? Mm-hmm. Like the Cowboys could technically IR him if they wanted to, but they're not going to keep him on the 53-man roster during the season, so they'd have to waive him injured. It's a whole mess. So
it is.
Let's hope that Bernard's back. Hamstrings are tricky 2-3 weeks. Hopefully,
it's hard not to look at it as a death sentence, to be honest. I mean, just because
really
it's such a hard setback, and it's a lower body hamstring injury, which means that it might reoccur. And again, like all you said, there's too many bodies there. There's too many. The numbers are stacked against him, so it's tough.
It's tough. It's really, really unfortunate. Couple other things. Travon Diggs. We've been talking about him all offseason long, making a leap here in year 2. Through one day of practice, it seems like we're already there, right? He made an incredible interception. He made another interception that was out of bounds. What are your expectations for Diggs this year?
Great things. I mean, the thought process is that, he has the talent. He has a kind of a pedigree there. He has the work ethic, clearly. And that the trajectory at the end of the season was shooting straight up. I am hoping that he, at the very least, picks up where he left off, if not hopping forward a little bit and becoming a little bit better player. I got to say, I mean, just Cooper wasn't in practice, but I thought overall everything that we saw, the coverage was pretty good by almost everybody that was playing. So that's really encouraging. Again, first practice, let's not go too far, but I mean, it's clear that Travon Diggs came out with purpose. He was talking some trash to Dak at some point during practice, so he's clearly feeling it. I think Diggs taking the next step and becoming kind of an emotional or vocal leader would really be a huge benefit to this defense that really is looking for that kind of leadership in its secondary right now.
There's one more thing I wanted to touch on, but is there any other players that you think we need to mention? Randy Gregory had a really nice dip move around Lyle Collins. That was fun. Anything else you want to bring up?
Parsons. Okay. It sounds like they had the very first team reps. They came out in true base personnel with 3 linebackers, and what they basically did was attach Micah Parsons to the tight end. And when the tight end deployed out into the slot, it was Schultz, if I'm not mistaken. Micah blanketed him and covered him that way, which I thought was kind of an interesting look. Then apparently he ran all the way across the field. I think I'm getting this from Brian Broaddus, if I remember correctly, just to credit, and immediately put his hand down in the dirt and started rushing the passer, and got around the corner on Terrence Steele. So. Or Brandon Knight, maybe. So, I mean, again, I think what we're seeing is kind of them trying things out. Obviously he's going to be focusing on middle linebacker position, but clearly they're going to piecemeal him assignments as well to kind of be a part of the defense, find ways to deploy him in interesting ways.
I would say one more thing about the linebackers. The NFL Network did a really good job of showing some of these guys in coverage, moving around. Of the 4 top guys between Van Der Esch, Jalen Smith, Micah Parsons, and Keanu Neal, 3 of those guys look fantastic in space. Like 3 of them looked really, really good, moving around, running sideline to sideline. One of them looked a little lumbering. Can you guess which one that is?
Keanu Neal?
No, it was not Keanu Neal. That would be the guy wearing number 9. But we'll talk about him on a different day.
Romo was out there?
Yeah, well.
he's looked lumbering at 9
showed up out of shape.
It would be the first time that there'd be number 9 lumbering around the field either.
I just got my Tony Romo autographed jersey in the mail. Let's not do that today. The last thing I wanted to mention, this comes again from our guy Brian Broaddus, who said the Cowboys got more done in the first day of practice this year than they did in the 10 years under Jason Garrett. I mean, any practice, right? Like this was a practice that was intense. They did a lot of work. They were busy. You could see it, right? You could see it from the NFL Network. Like they were doing a lot of different stuff in that practice. It seemed like they were on a good pace. any just general comments about how the practice went for the Cowboys?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing that I feel like I still need to see in person to kind of get a good feel for, right? Is it does seem from video and obviously secondhand from guys like Brian and Jeff that it seems like the pace has picked up a little bit, that they're getting a lot done, which is fantastic. I mean, clearly that's kind of what they implied, that they got a lot done in the offseason as well. So I'm assuming, and they were famously fined by the NFL for getting maybe a little bit too much done in the offseason. So
I love it that they're trying to cheat. It's great.
At least they're trying to give everything they can to try to get their advantages where they can. So I think that's exciting. I think clearly they feel like they're a little bit further along than they expected to be at this point. And so they're really kind of pushing the envelope on really kind of getting things in place and really kind of trying to take full advantage of the extra time that they have, over other teams because of the Hall of Fame game and everything else.
Yeah, I agree. It seemed like practice had a good pace to it yesterday. I'm curious to hear your thoughts when you go out there. When are you going out to practice?
Saturday is going to be the first day, so I'm excited, and then I'll be out there Sunday as well. Yeah, so we'll definitely have the full report.
So we're gonna have some fun nuggets to talk about. So it should be a lot of fun. So continue to download, subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Continue to check us out on YouTube. You can follow Landon at McCoolBCB. You can follow the show at Locked On Cowboys, and I'm at Marcus _Mosher, and we will see you next time.